Hey, what's going on? This is Troy, and this is the Planet 76 podcast, your source for Sixers news, highlights, hot takes, and more. Welcome to the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Planet 76, episode 41. This is Troy. I've got Michael here with me, and we've got William joining us for the first time all the way from New Zealand. How's it hanging over there, man?
That's incredible. I still can't believe this is happening. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's pretty good here. We're still in the midst of sort of lockdown stuff due to COVID. We're like 6 weeks, 2 months behind COVID for everyone. So yeah, we're still like Omicron is just picking up here. Oh, but wow. Other than that, like, we're doing good over here. Okay. Yeah. All
right. So why don't you guys, so obviously, Michael, you connected William with us here on Planet 76. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll get William right into it just to hear how he's a Sixers fan and how that kind of happened. Why don't you explain some of that?
So I put up, I forget what I put up a few weeks ago on Trust, actually, it wasn't a few weeks ago, it was a few days ago on Trust to Love on my page, and a couple people responded. They were like, hey, can I be on the podcast? Some of them probably weren't serious, but one of them that was serious was Williams here. And I was like, yeah. I was like, you definitely can be on the podcast. And this is our honorary Dirk episode. So, number 41. So, had to have a guest, and I'm glad that we got him on the podcast. So, yeah, really, really glad we could get you on, and really glad we could get the times to work. Because for those that don't know, he lives in New Zealand. And this is interesting. I like this a lot.
So it's 4:30 in the afternoon here. We're recording at 10:30 for you guys. But that's because it's Friday for us, so it's Thursday for you.
Right.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Oh dang! You're already on James Harden's debut day. I'm jealous because we're not going to be there for another hour and a half.
But his debut is Saturday for us.
Oh, that's true. Duh.
Yeah, so that game that's roughly 24 hours from now is sort of midday tomorrow for me.
Right.
Yeah.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you, William, for James Harden's debut?
I've been ready for a hell of a long time since what, the 2018 playoffs, when the Celtics sort of froze out Ben Simmons, and I was like, right, okay, we thought this was going to be Shaq and Penny, but Penny would shoot the ball and Penny would make his free throws. This isn't going to work. I've tried to defend Ben for as long as forever. Hell, after the pass in Game 7 last year, I was fully ready to trade Ben Simmons for John Wall. I was done. I was so over it. I defended him as hard as I could because you got to support your team to the death. And at that stage, I went, no, I'm done. But I've been wanting to move on from Ben since 2018, since his rookie season. Wow. Because I just knew it wasn't going to work. Because we saw it at LSU, he didn't care. He wasn't interested in improving.
Right.
We've seen it since his high school days at Montverde and at LSU. He didn't care. I've sort of known it wasn't going to work for a while. I've been ready to move on since 2018.
Yeah, I had a friend tell me. Actually, just 2 days ago, he was like, Ben Simmons hasn't improved since high school anyway. So it's like, pointing to what you said about the desire and the heart behind it. And 2018, that's a long time. So this is a long anticipated thing with James Harden. And, even I was thinking about it today. Being a Sixers fan, and if you've been a Sixers fan, anyone listening for as long as we have, you remember the dark days. You remember the 10-win season. You remember the 20-win seasons. And it's just it's so amazing to think you can go from that to, the progress that obviously we've made over the last number of years. But to think that James Harden, if you'd have told me 7 years ago that James Harden's going to be a Philadelphia 76er at some point, I would say you're crazy.
Absolutely.
And, again, we're less than 24 hours away from him making his debut. So, again, you're in New Zealand. So why are you a Sixers fan? We love that you're a Sixers fan, but how did that happen?
So I currently stand 6 foot, and I was this tall when I was like 12 and 13-ish years old, and I knew I wasn't going to grow much taller, but for New Zealand, I'm like kind of tall. So I always wanted to play NCAA basketball, so I thought, cool, I'm going to pick a college point guard who's getting drafted, and I'm going to model my game after this guy. And
oh boy.
And I was watching the Final Four that year, and that was the one with Syracuse and Michigan. That was when Spike Ulbrich was at Michigan. But I really loved Michael Carter-Williams, a 6'6" point guard from Syracuse. And I was like, right, wherever he gets drafted, that's the team I'm supporting.
That's so great.
And so I had no idea about the NBA at that point, right? All I knew was that the Heat had just won the title, and that LeBron James was amazing. That's all I knew, because NBA at that stage didn't get a lot of coverage here. We'd only ever had one NBA player from New Zealand in the NBA. That was Sean Marks back in forever ago when he played for the Spurs.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I just went, okay, I'm going to support Philadelphia. Like, that's where he's been drafted. Cool. I'm pretty sure Steven Adams was the 12th pick just after Michael Carter-Williams as well. Mm-hmm. And he's from New Zealand. He's the second player we've ever had. So I said, yeah, okay, I'll support Philadelphia. And then I watched his debut against Miami. And I was like, oh, I picked a great team. We
Yes,
just
you
beat
did.
the defending champions. We're going to be amazing. And then, was that the 10-win season, or was that the one just before the 10-win season?
Maybe before, if I had to guess.
That was the season, because his rookie year we were like kind of okay. And then the season after that, we had the 27-game losing streak.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. And then I sat
So
through
you
it
joined
all.
in the dark days.
I started
You are a
supporting this
certified
team
fan,
at
my
the start of
friend.
the process. I should have bought it with me. It's in the other room. I still have my Michael Carter.
I have one too. I have one too in my closet.
And it's so weird that it's
Yeah.
got number one
did
on
not.
it, and now we've got James Harden wearing number one, who's also a 6'6" point guard like Michael Carter-Williams was. He's just a top 50 player ever, not Michael Carter-Williams, who's now going to go fight in the UFC or referee in the UFC. One of those two.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's a that's a fascinating story.
That's great.
And
That's
I
so
love
great.
it. And oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. That's good stuff. So, kind of how this is going to roll for the next number of minutes. We're going to so we haven't played basketball in over a week. Our last episode was our win against the Bucks heading into the All-Star break, and so now we're preparing for post All-Star break life. And Sixers signed Willie Cauley-Stein to a 10-day contract recently. Fast facts about Willie Cauley-Stein: 28 years old. He had a couple seasons where he was a pretty decent big, averaging about 12 and 7 in 2017, 18, 19 season. And then last couple seasons, his numbers have declined: 5 points, 5 rebounds a game. And this season, not much. I don't know why. I don't know if either of you guys know why. I don't really keep up Willie Cauley-Stein too much, but only 18 games played this season, assuming he was hurt. But now, obviously, on a 10-day contract, healthy enough for that. And so, what are your guys' thoughts on this signing?
I've been yabbering for a minute telling my story. I'll let Michael run.
Listen,
through it.
man, we have you on for this reason. We want you to speak, so we're really glad that you were able to share that. Really. Sure.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Willie Cauley-Stein. So what I really know about Willie Cauley-Stein mostly comes from his days when he was with the Mavericks. I was watching a very little bit of Willie Cauley-Stein film. I think it was yesterday. And really, he really excels in pick and rolls, kind of catching alley-oops. He's your athletic big who can block shots, run the fast break. I think he'll, and I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Drummond, but I think he'll be really good at doing some of the things that Drummond did for this team. Again, like blocking shots, running the break, catching alley-oops, especially from James Harden. That's going to be cool to watch. So I think, and especially because he's on a 10-day, I think it's, I don't really think there's anything negative about the move. I think it's just either a trial run for him to be a signing for the rest of the season, or again, it's just a trial run in 10 days and that's it. So I like the signing. Again, like you said, he's 20 years old. And I believe the Mavericks released him about a month ago, so he's kind of just been waiting around for another shot on a team.
It certainly can't hurt.
Yeah.
10-day contracts are beautiful.
The 10-day signing is the real key to it. I mean, credit Daryl again. Daryl's our Lord and Savior.
Straight up. Yes.
So Daryl getting him on a 10-day and so the non-committal thing is quite good. It's real interesting how his numbers fell off because he's still like directly proportional to his usage rate. I mean, like between 2017, 2020, it was between 14 and 20% usage on 20 to 28 minutes a game, where he was putting it like 12 and 7 kind of thing. And then he went to Golden State, and then was it Dwight Powell blew his Achilles as Luka's lob partner for Luka's second year, so they needed another lob threat for Luka. So they traded a second round or something to Golden State for Cauley-Stein. And then he's floated with them for a bit. But then between Boban, Dwight Powell coming back, Porzingis, that's a loaded front court that you preferably want quite spread for Luka to do his thing. And then, spot up your other guys, Maxi Kleber, Jalen Brunson, all of them. So that's sort of why we've seen his minutes fall off. It just hasn't been a great fit in Dallas. Whereas with us, he's got the fit. He's Drummond's replacement. He's definitely not the rebounder Drummond was. Few people are. But he's definitely more mobile as a defender than Drummond. He can move his feet because, Drummond's, 330 pounds. No one can move their feet at that weight. So Cauley-Stein, because Harden's going to want to switch the pick and roll a lot, so he's going to be slightly more mobile than Drummond would have been in that situation. Jump a little higher than Drummond too. So I really like the fit, and as a 10-day, if it works out, then awesome. If not, then, we can keep going in the buyout market and find somebody else. We've got a few months now, a month and a half now, 24 games to the end of the season. This is it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think that I think there's certainly potential, and I think it was a need. Obviously, two of the needs that we've talked about post, James Harden trade 2 weeks ago is a big and, some shooting. We haven't acquired the shooting yet. I mean, that's been a thought for some, but this, honestly, was my biggest concern. I wasn't super comfortable with Paul Millsap. I mean, I'm still, he's still obviously on the team, but I don't know about him being the backup 5. Same with Paul Reed. He obviously shows some potential at times, and he had that the first game post James Harden trade. He had that reverse dunk attempt that was so hilarious.
No, that was disgraceful.
I mean, I appreciate the effort,
so
but
moments like that.
Don't do that again. Tell me what Doc Rivers was thinking too.
No, like when Yeah. Like when Jordan Bell threw it off the backboard to himself as a rookie for the Warriors. Like you're not at that level yet. You're not Zach LaVine. You're not Ja Morant. Like you're not the superstar. You're not even a rotation guy to have the clout to get away with that kind of stuff. Like Paul Reed's fun. Don't get me wrong, but you're not allowed to do that yet, as knowing your place in the pecking order.
Exactly. So I mean, Willie Cauley-Stein, he could absolutely bring some potential, and I would not be shocked if he finds his way into this rotation extended past the 10-day and plays a role for us moving forward. So speaking of moving forward, so again, we haven't talked about any basketball over the last week because there hasn't been any, but moving forward, Sixers 35-23 currently sit at the 3 spot in the Eastern Conference, 2.5 back of the Bulls and the Heat, who are 38-21. And, of course, James Harden's debut tomorrow night in Minnesota, 8 o'clock Friday night. And then at New York, kind of home and home at New York Sunday. And then at home against New York for Harden's, hopefully, his debut at home on Wednesday coming up into March. Then, of course, the big one I think we all have scheduled is the Brooklyn Nets coming to Philadelphia on March 10th. Just a little ways down the road, but it'll be here before you know it, 2 weeks from today, actually. So 14 days and exactly 1 month after the trade went down, will Ben Simmons possibly, maybe, I don't think, make his return to Philadelphia? We'll have to find out. But unless you guys have anything to touch on there, why don't we camp out on James Harden a little bit? Because why not? What? I don't even know. Maybe William can start with this one. Michael and I have kind of talked about it for a while. What do you have to say about James Harden being a Sixer? What's your take on it? I mean, how happy are you about it? Just your immediate reaction, all those kind of things.
I was the trade deadline special that was on ESPN for us was between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. I woke up 6:45, started streaming it, and I was watching it. I made my girlfriend a cup of coffee like I do every morning before I go in and wake her up. And she's always a little grumpy in the morning just because that's how people wake up. I give her a coffee, and just to try and cheer her up, I start singing the 10-9-8 76ers song. And she says, I'm not going to be happy unless there's a trade. And we sat down, we started watching it, we were getting ready for the day, and we were both just in the lounge, and it happened. Malik Andrews just says, we got to interrupt you, there's a trade. And we were silent while the entire thing happened. And my first reaction was, we kept Maxey, we kept Thibault. We didn't give them up. Holy cow, that's absolutely incredible. We jumped up and down, we screamed, we got a noise complaint from our neighbors.
Worth it.
It was the best thing. Absolutely, right? Like, it still doesn't feel real. It really doesn't until I see it. Until he's actually on the court playing, wearing red, white, and blue. It doesn't feel real. It felt almost real today when the NBA put out their little thing on Instagram, their points per game leaders, total points leaders, and Harden is second in assists right now. And it had a 76ers player there, so it was almost real. We're almost there. I still won't believe it till it actually happens, till we see it.
Wow.
That's great. That's great. Michael, what do you got just to add to, again, we're less than 24 hours away from it.
I don't know if it's ever going to feel real, simply because, I mean, when you're a fan of a team and you have your player like Joel Embiid, but you're not really expecting, a player of his caliber, another player of his caliber to somehow get to your team. So when it happens, you're just like, it's almost, I think we talked about this last week as well. It's almost surreal to the point where here it is, like it's right in front of you, but you're just like, wow, this is actually happening. Like you're just thinking, wow, this after all of this, the Sixers get James Harden. James
Right.
Harden. Of all players, James Harden.
We do. We
really
say that
have,
our last
but
3 episodes at least. We're like, James Harden, it's James Harden. Like, wow.
We got to be honest here. Was there ever a point, I'm going to ask you guys this now, was there ever a point where you, in your mind, and maybe not publicly, but in your mind, you settled on a Ben Simmons trade and you said, you know what, Buddy Hield and Harrison Barnes, right? Because I said it, there was a point where I was like, you know what, John Wall, we'll just take it because John Wall will make free throws, or at least shoot them, for crying out loud.
Right.
And to as fans, everyone had that point where we were like, oh, Kevin Huerter and John Collins, or Buddy Hield and Harrison Barnes, and it shows why none of us are GMs, because Daryl did his best Emperor Palpatine impression and just waited. He waited, and he not only got a superstar, he got his guy. We've heard Daryl say that Harden was a better offensive player than Michael Jordan, so Daryl got his guy specifically. I still can't get over that.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely had those moments, especially, I mean, Michael can tell you, we talked about it on this podcast, is as we kept creeping up to the deadline, I became more and more like, okay, let's do something, because I don't want this season to be a complete waste. With how Joel has performed this year, and the fact that, again, we're 12 games over 500 without Ben Simmons playing a single play for us was just so significant to me, and I was like, but when reality sets in, if we keep the same team that we had, we're not going to make that much noise in the playoffs. And so I was like, let's do something. I was getting really impatient. But as you noted, Daryl did what Daryl does, and
just a genius.
Here we are.
He's just, like, I can't even accurately describe. I mean, this dude waited 8 months to get James Harden. He waited through all the criticism, through all of the people saying, oh, what does he think Ben is? What does he think he's LeBron James? What do you think he's an MVP? He waited through all of that and said,
he waited.
I'm just saying, like, in the context of the whole
20
Simmons,
months,
like the whole Simmons fiasco thing,
Exactly. Since Ben asked out after the Atlanta series, yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think it's incredible that he wanted, because we all know, right? Ben, Maxey, 2 firsts was on the table for Houston. And they didn't give him to him. And Daryl kept going after Harden. Like, that's the incredible part, is he was denied James Harden once, and then just went to the team that got James Harden and said, well, I'll give you this for him now. That's incredible.
He's playing chess, everybody else playing checkers.
That's how it's always
You've seen the meme or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah. No, Daryl's.
Yeah.
I've texted Michael this before.
He's just
Daryl's
on
playing
another
4D chess in a
like
VR
dimension
machine.
of actions. Like he's just on a totally different plane than everyone else.
When Bob Myers and Joe Lake are like, oh yeah, we're light years ahead of everybody else, I sort of forgot Daryl Morey existed in that moment.
Yep, it's incredible. It's incredible. And here we are on a podcast about the 76ers talking about James Harden. So it's still surreal. Michael said it best. So let me ask you this. So we just talked about, the upcoming schedule, Minnesota and then New York twice. What do you want to see, or what do you anticipate from James over these 3 games? Just kind of how it's going to look on the floor, what kind of role he's going to play. Is he going to be super aggressive? Is he going to be looking to facilitate? What do you expect to see? What do you want to see? Kind of along those lines, Michael.
Honestly, I know he's been. I mean, from what it seems, he's been in game shape throughout the past week. Well, I guess 2 weeks. Actually, because he hasn't really played for the Nets. I know he missed I believe it was 3 or 4 games before he got traded. So that's like a week and a half, 2 weeks of non-action, including the All-Star break. So I would assume, based off of the shooting videos, the practicing, scrimmaging that we've seen, I would assume he's in game shape. And if he's not, I hope that these, Minnesota, New York games can serve as sort of a little bit of a tune-up, not only for the Brooklyn game on March 10th, but for the rest of the season and for the playoffs. And if he's already in game shape, well, good luck to every other team, because that's going to be dangerous. But either way, I think these first few games coming out of the All-Star break are just going to be a sort of like, okay, what's James Harden looking like with the Sixers? What kind of things can we expect from not only James Harden, but James Harden with the Sixers? Things like that. Where does this team go? How do they form the team around Harden and Embiid in terms of actually playing? Where do they go from here, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. What are they going to look like moving forward? And I think these next 2 games could possibly, huge emphasis on could, serve as a potentially looking forward kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep. William, what about you?
I'm really interested. I honestly think, in terms of a dynamic, it's going to be pretty similar to Kobe and Shaq, just from a fit perspective. Right. I'm not saying that they are in that category, right? That's blasphemous. But I'm not concerned about the fit at all alongside Harden and Embiid, because in all honesty, we know Harden wants to throw his weight around and go to the free throw line. Embiid, to preserve his body, is going to pop out the 3-point line a little more, where he's going to do his super awesome fake and then drive past everyone. He's going to be fine. That fit's going to be seamless. I'm really interested to see him play alongside Maxey and Tobias Harris, specifically Harris, because he's hyped up Maxey like crazy. He says Maxey's awesome. Maxey got a few dunks. Maxey's competitive, quick, feisty, all that stuff. I want to see him play alongside Tobias Harris, because Tobias Harris was, the 4th option when we had Jimmy Butler on the team. That's sort of it. Other than that, he was the 3rd option last season. He was the 2nd option for most of this season, as Maxey sort of ascended, and they've been 2A, 2B kind of thing. Now, with Maxey ascending as well and Harden fitting in, does Tobias go back to being the 4th option? How much exception does he take to that? What was his shot selection look like? Does he just start turning into, well, I haven't had my touches, I'm just going to take 6 dribbles and burp up a late shot clock thing? Or does he accept his role as the 4th option or 3rd option? And because as a spot-up guy, he's phenomenal, right? When you get him open, he can knock down jumpers when he just makes quick decisions. That's when he's at his best. So if he accepts that role alongside Harden, we know Harden plays well with shooters, right? Trevor Ariza, Eric Gordon, back in the Houston days when they nearly toppled the Warriors. I know Harden's going to say, hey, if you can do this, you're going to excel playing alongside me. If he can do that, then the sky's the limit for this team. I'm just really interested to see how those guys fit around him. Yeah.
Well said. I mean, Tobias, he's the guy, I guess since he's been here, who's had an ever-changing role, as you noted, or at least an ever-changing, is he the 2nd, 3rd, 4th guy? And I couldn't agree more. Again, with Tyrese and his rise, Tobias could be very well looked at as the fourth option, for the 76er team. And that's a freaking good fourth option. But does he want that? Will he accept that? And how will he play in that? And I agree, too. I think that Tobias is a spot up. He can knock him down. A lot of times he seems a little reliant on his own ability to get his own shot. And, I think James Harden... Right, and James Harden can take that a little bit away from him and help him, get open and just spot up. So that's certainly something to take note of. And again, I think over these 3 games, I think it'll be a feeling out process for Harden, of course, with all these guys. And the good thing is, like you noted, we have 24, 25 games left to get right before the playoffs. And I think as good of a player that James Harden is, I don't think it's going to be a very difficult process, and that's the hope. But that brings me to my next question is, what are you concerned about? We could say that, the Tobias Harris fit could be a little bit of a concern. Now, it's easy because I've been on Cloud 9 for the last 2 weeks, as many Sixers fans have, about this trade, and everything's going to be perfect, everything's going to be wonderful, everything's going to be beautiful. What's a possible concern you have, either short-term, long-term, just about this whole James Harden deal, so we can be a little
level-headed,
realistic, let's say?
Honestly, I guess this is a concern for every team, but I guess injuries, especially with Embiid, because although he's probably had his best seasons in terms of staying healthy so far, there's always that concern of, he could fall the wrong way, hurt his leg in some form, his ankle, his knee, and then Harden with the whole hamstring thing. That was affecting him last year in the playoffs. You'd hope that, maybe now he's kind of developed sort of a, maybe not a way to prevent that, but sort of if it happens to kind of nurse it and maybe play with it, or kind of just take your foot off the gas pedal a little bit and let it heal a little bit before you start playing. And other than that, really, I'd have to think of other concerns in terms of this new look Sixers team, aside from injuries, because I think that's probably a big one. I know it's something that we don't like to think about for obvious reasons, but I think that's a really big one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm concerned about Doc.
I don't blame you.
I am. So in my knowledge as an NBA fan, I'm just going to rattle off the Hall of Famers Doc has had the privilege and the honor to coach. I've got Rondo as a Hall of Fame. I'm just going to put him there right now.
Yep.
Rondo, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, right? He had DeAndre Jordan in his prime. He's not a Hall of Famer, but he had, first team all defense or whatever it was, DeAndre Jordan, right? He had Embiid in his prime. He had Ben Simmons, who made the All-Star team that year. He's not a Hall of Famer. Right? JJ Redick was on that Clippers team too. The talent that Doc has had as a coach, and to have all those guys, and to have one ring out of it, and to have the most blown 3-1 leads ever, the most blown 3-2 leads ever, and out of the last 10 seasons, the 10 biggest regular season blown leads, Doc has 6 of them. I'm sorry, that's genuine concern. I'm concerned about Doc. He's always had a lot of talent, right? That's why he's got 1,000 wins. It's why he's a top 15 coach ever. And it's the whole, Popovich turned nobodies into Hall of Famers, and Doc has sort of had Hall of Famers that turned into Paul George in the bubble sometimes. Mm-hmm. I'm concerned about Doc, and I'm concerned about Matisse as well, because the best way you get better at shooting is by shooting the ball. Practice makes permanent. Keep taking game shots. That's why Ben never got better at it, because Ben never took them, let alone made them. And now there's even less shots to go around for Matisse. And is he going to turn into Andre Roberson or Tony Allen or that kind of guy? Because don't get me wrong, phenomenal defender, right? We know that. Tony Allen got his jersey retired in Memphis just from being a defender. But, Matisse's extension, he's eligible this offseason for it. What are we going to want to pay him if he can't shoot the ball? If he played 14 minutes against the Bucks, and he didn't even start the second half. He played 3 minutes the whole second half against the Bucks. and he's our best perimeter defender. I'm really concerned about how he fits alongside them, considering all the shots that have to go around, and as the playoffs slow down, your weak links get exposed. I don't know about Doc's rigidity and flexibility when it comes to the lineups around Matisse fitting into all that.
Well said. Well said. See, now you're giving me like anxiety because Doc Rivers wasn't the one on my mind, but you're exactly right. Now he is on my mind. What do you? I mean, this is a very broad question, but what do you think it is for Doc? I mean, it appears, at least the rumor is that these stars enjoy playing for him and that kind of thing, and he's a great regular season coach. What do you think it is, or like what do you see in Doc's coaching style that if you could give him a piece of advice for the playoffs this upcoming season, what would it be?
I think he's
I was just going to say, I think he just lets the
That's why
players
everyone wants
play
to play
a
for
lot.
him.
And the players obviously like that because they want to play how they want to play.
Yeah. And they've grown up in the AAU system where it's all about them, right? Harden's been in a heliocentric offense before where it was all about him. Steve Nash did the same thing with Harden back last season when Durant and Kyrie were out and Harden had to carry the load. Same thing he did in Houston.
Right.
And Doc empowers them, right? On and off the court, Doc is big on letting the players be themselves, and he's not Popovich where it's you run my system, you do as you are told. When I call a play for Kawhi, it is for the Spurs to score. He's sort of the opposite of that. And in the playoffs, sometimes you need a bit of, we're just going to run two guys off of a screen here, and we're going to shoot this shot and play to this specific system. And I think for the freestyle sort of heliocentric offense, when you've got all these guys around you, you got to have to give them structure. They're grown men. There's a lot of egos there. You've got to give them a pecking order, a hierarchy, and structure to really get it moving together. That's how the Spurs were so great as a team for a long time. They understood the pecking order rather than letting everyone be themselves. Because when you let everyone be themselves, your egos get slightly inflated, and that's when you start to clash heads a little bit, right? It's what Brett Brown wanted to do, was let everyone be themselves, and then you had Jimmy and Ben sort of clashing egos, and then the organization had to pick between them, and we know how that went.
Yep, excellent point. Excellent point. And I agree with the note on Matisse Thybulle as well, because that it could be exploited. Certainly, his lack of ability to shoot the basketball in the playoffs, of course, and it is a factor in the sense too that him being our best perimeter defender, and we don't have a Ben Simmons anymore. There's a heavy load on him defensively, but if he can't stay on the court, if we're playing 4-on-5 on offensive end, that's a concern. So, all right, good stuff. Let's move to a little prediction kind of thing. So we're gonna, I see it the way I see it. There's 6 teams maybe that could make the finals out of the East that I want to be overly super shocked or surprised. A couple I'd be a little more surprised than others. If they make it out of the East, but the top 5 seeds in the East right now, and then you've got the Brooklyn Nets who are a little bit beyond that, who are certainly a contender. So whoever wants to go first, I want you to rank the 6 teams in order, 1 being they have the best chance to reach the NBA Finals, to 6 being they have the least chance. And the teams are, again, according to the seed, Miami, Chicago, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Milwaukee, and then Brooklyn, again, a little bit down on the list. I think they're in the 7th seed right now, but we put them ahead of the Raptors and the Celtics for obvious reasons. So out of those 6, give me a ranking 1 to 6, 1 being the best chance to make the finals.
Cool.
Go for it, Michael.
Right,
I want to hear yours first.
I think the Milwaukee Bucks are the clear-cut number 1. They're just a juggernaut. I mean, when all 3 guys, Giannis, Drew, and Chris Middleton, when they're healthy, they're just a fantastic team. They don't have a lot of holes or flaws in their team. So I would go Milwaukee, and then I think it's them in Tier 1. I think Tier 2 is Sixers, Nets, in that order. And probably the Heat as well. The Heat are a very good team, and they have been for the past few years. Obviously, they made the finals in 2020. And then from there, I would go Chicago, Cleveland. I I'm
That is,
I'm kind of
that's
mad
the
that you
exact
included
order
the
I have.
Cavs. Not because I don't like the Cavs, but because I just don't know if they're on the tier of these teams. Like that's my opinion, but I don't know if they're on the level of these teams. You know?
Right. No, I partly did that because I knew you would say that too. But I had the exact same order that you just had. Myself just doing it real quick. So, William, let's hear what you think.
I did it in tiers, just like you guys did. In tier 1, our 1A, 1B, I've got Philly and Brooklyn, and I gotta be honest. Sorry, Philly and Milwaukee, not Brooklyn. Sorry, Philly and Milwaukee. My mistake. And in all honesty, we just beat Milwaukee.
Yes.
Was it in Milwaukee? Or was
Yep,
it was in Milwaukee, wasn't it? Yeah. Without James Harden. I gotta be honest. I really think we have a good shot. In a 7-game series, I think home court, whoever has it wins that series. I really do.
Okay.
And then the tier below that, I've got Miami, Brooklyn, and I'm sorry, I know we're supposed to hate them for our history or whatever, but I've got the Celtics in the same tier as Miami and Brooklyn. I really do. Because they've been the best half-court defense in the league for the second half of the season so far, like since January 1st, really.
Right.
And I think when it slows down in the playoffs, when your half-court offense is, when there's no more fast break anymore, I think Chicago and Cleveland are really going to struggle. I think Cleveland's just a little too young. Like if they played the Bucks, I'd expect Drew Holiday to put Darius Garland in the torture chamber and give him hell for
offense and defense
on both ends. For the 4 games of that series would be Garland would average 12 points and 6 assists with 8 turnovers a game or something.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Darius Garland would do what? Who was the
Drew Holiday.
lockdown defender? I missed what team or anything.
Oh, Drew Holiday.
Drew.
Put him in the
Fair enough.
Put him in
county
the torture
jail.
chamber. He'd destroy him. The Cavs are just a little too young, and I think Chicago is just a little too small. Now, they did get Tristan Thompson, and he was making big contributions just today against the Hawks, and that's great. But when it comes down to it, I think they just don't have enough quite yet on the wing. Zach LaVine's a questionable defender. DeRozan's a little bit older, and DeRozan's got a lot of miles on his legs come postseason, so who knows where he's going to be defensively.
Defensively, the Bulls have some pretty significant issues. Aside from Caruso, and Lonzo, I forgot about him as well.
Got to give him a little bit of credit there. But that's the thing, he's been injured, right? That's why you forgot about him.
Defensively, I don't know if they have enough, kind of like what you said, especially in terms of competing with Milwaukee, Brooklyn, even Philly, even Miami. Like those teams, I think, in some.
What happens now?
Just keep rolling.
Okay.
Michael figured it out.
I think you're right in terms of the defensive order there. I think Miami's a sleeper, but I think everyone said Miami's a sleeper. Like all the Zach Lowe's, Bill Simmons of the world, they're all like, yeah, sleep on Miami at your own peril. Heat culture will come and eat you alive. And I think that's right. Put him against if you put the Miami against the Cavs in the first round, again, Darius Garland is going to get put in the torture chamber. He's going to get eaten alive just because they're young. Markkanen would get beaten up by Bam, and even Udonis Haslam would pull the chair on Markkanen or something, just an old man move, and make him feel stupid for a minute. So in all seriousness, Chicago and Cleveland, they're definitely the bottom tier of that. I have the Celtics above them. I honestly do, because experience counts for something, right? Al Horford, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, they've been to the conference finals a bunch. Experience really does count for something in this, and Brooklyn could sort of probably be put on the same tier as Philadelphia and Milwaukee when healthy, but we've got to see it first, and with their recent trend, it's not looking great. Also, Brooklyn is either going to be really too big or far too small.
Right.
They don't have a lot of wings in between. They've got their big men in Aldridge, Griffin, Claxton, Drummond, and they've got their little guys with Patty Mills, Dragic, Kyrie, Seth Curry.
Yep.
Not a lot of in-between guys. They got Bruce Brown, Kevin Durant, and James Johnson. That's it, is their in-between guys, and only one of them can shoot. Right.
Yeah, I think even to the point of we got to see it from the Nets, because there's two new, obviously very, very new-look teams in the East. One's the Sixers, one's the Nets. And the Nets, like you mentioned, are trending in the wrong direction, while the Sixers were doing it, are the 3 seed without James Harden, and now they add James Harden to it. And so I think that's why we can have a little more faith in the new look Sixers, even though we haven't seen it yet, is because they were already performing without it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and I hope Celtics fans are listening and notice the fact that we didn't put them in this, and then William came on and did. And I don't disagree. I mean, I think they're certainly in the mix. They're certainly in the mix.
They could make the second round if they got the right matchup. They could.
They could.
If they,
exactly. Very situational.
Chicago or Cleveland. If they got Chicago, like say the Celtics were the 7th seed, they won their play-in game, and Chicago finished as the 2nd seed, right? Then I honestly pick Celtics in an upset there. Yeah. I would. Right?
As well.
If any Celtics fan is listening, I know from our history we're not supposed to like each other, but I'd pick Celtics to win that series. So it's situational on Boston.
Yep. What's fascinating to me is the fact that these 6-7 teams that we're naming are it's so close right now, especially the top 5. It's 2.5-3 games apart, and we're 24 games out, and so these matchups are going to drive everything. That's why it's so hard to predict this because I mean, who's going to be surprised at this point with the standings the way they're at is if Philadelphia plays Brooklyn in the first round, or if the Bucks get a tough matchup in the first round. Like, it might be, we don't know, because it's so tight. We might have to play Milwaukee, Brooklyn, and Miami or Boston or whoever you want to throw in there as the 3rd most difficult team. We just don't know what it's going to look like, and it's
I'm really hoping Embiid goes to Twitter again like he did in previous postseasons and post the photos of who he thinks he's going to play in each round.
Oh, yeah.
On his way to the title. I really hope that he does. I know he's grown up a lot since he stopped doing that, but like the internet troll in me really wants him to go back and do it one more time, because I think this is, this season or next season are our best shots to win it. I'd love to see him try it. We won the tiebreaker against Chicago. We're 3-0 against them this season, and 2 of those games were with 8 players. So I mean, that works out in favor for us in terms of seeding. But like, we don't have the tiebreaker against Brooklyn. We're 2-1 against them. We got wrecked by the Bucks once this season, didn't we?
Early when Embiid was out in November, and Paul Reed was playing
Max, he had 39 in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it. So we probably don't have the tiebreaker against Milwaukee. Even if we beat Brooklyn, it'd come down to points differential or something. So that's going to get tight for the tiebreaker there. We play Cleveland 3 more times. We've beaten them once, so we've definitely, and now we've added James Harden, so we've got a shot to win the tiebreaker.
Right.
And that, who am I missing? Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's our record against them? I can't remember.
I don't know.
I think they're also. I think they're 35 and.
But us against them, I don't know.
Oh, us against them. I know the Sixers beat them once a few weeks ago, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, assume we're even with them for the season then, and the next time we play them, we'll determine the tiebreaker. Yeah, right. So we've got a good shot to, because it's so close, we've got a decent shot to get better seeding and therefore home court with all the tiebreakers we've won, but you still don't know what's going to happen because it's all so close. Whereas, you go to the West and Phoenix is 8 games or whatever.
Right.
They hit clear in the number 1 seed. And and they're going to keep it even with Chris Paul being out till the playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. It really is, this push for the playoffs and the seeding and how the matchups and all of that fun stuff are going to play out. So let's real quick get a couple more things to touch on. So James Harden's debut is fastly approaching. We're almost an hour closer than when we started this episode, so that's a beautiful thing. James Harden's debut in Minnesota tomorrow night. Give me some predictions. Let's predict. The winner will get, I don't know what, but we'll see. If we had merch, I would say Planet 76 merch. We don't have any merch. Points, rebounds, assists for James Harden. Give me a stat line prediction.
I'll go something. I'll go something light. I'll go like 15. No, I'll go like 18, 6 and 6.
18, 6 and 6.
Sure.
I've got 19, 8 and 6 written down here. That's 8 assists, 6 rebounds.
Okay.
I'm thinking because it's Minnesota. I'm just thinking about it now. Like in terms of perimeter defenders, D'Lo, who's actually had good on-off numbers this year defensively.
He's been good this year.
Yeah, which is, we never thought we'd say D'Lo and defense in the same sentence without a bad there, but he's been good this year. So I both left-handers, I guess that's basically his matchup. I've got 19-8-6 written down. I'm thinking 22-8-6.
Okay, cool.
Oh man, that is
Little
not
more
far
scoring.
off from what I was going to say. Now I'm going to have to mix it up. Gosh, I was going to say 21-8-5, but that's a little close to yours.
I mean, hey, I said 18, right? I said 18-6-6. I mean,
you know what? I'm just going to go big for because why not? I'm going to go 27.
wow.
Because
Okay,
why
I
not?
like it.
Because you
I
guys
like
took
it.
all the low numbers, or anything near the low numbers. 27, 7, and 7. Lucky
Cool.
7.
All right, the LeBron James career average.
That's
Okay.
right. Yep.
Let's go.
Hey, you guys, come on now. He's like, one of the greatest scorers of all time. Michael's got him in the teens. Come on now. For his debut.
It's a feel-out game.
Right, exactly.
It
Like I
is.
said, like
It
I was
is.
saying
But
about the Minnesota
I want to
and
see
New
him
York
feel
game,
out
you know?
a 30-point game.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't shock
All right,
me. Is what I will
man,
say.
this has been fun.
Very,
This has been fun.
very fun.
William, so typically how we end when we have a guest is
Oh,
that
yes.
we give you the floor for however long you want it to give us a hot take / a bold prediction on the Sixers, on something NBA related, something related to this season, of course. So the floor is yours, and again, thank you for joining us on episode 41 of Planet 76.
Thank you very much.
So big thanks to be here. Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome. First time doing anything like this. I really, really love it. Really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Your content's awesome. Michael, as an Instagram poster, just on Trust and Love, the level-headedness all
Thank you,
season
sir.
is my biggest appreciation for the whole internet for the entire year, because the internet's full of outrage culture. It's how you get clicks. It's, being level-headed isn't sexy, but my God, is it actually accurate most of the time. So I really appreciate that. Really appreciate you guys. My hot take, my bold prediction, whatever you want to call it, Dallas makes the conference finals.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Luka goes from losing in the first round, first 2 times he's been to the playoffs. I just think there's no one in the West that can stop him other than Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And as far as I know, they're not playing. If they come back, different story, right? My prediction is subject to change based on that. I think Dallas makes the conference finals. I think right now they'd match up with Phoenix in the second round. And if Chris Paul's hand is still a bit iffy at that point, I don't think anyone can stop Luka.
No.
I really don't.
I don't
My
either.
honest prediction is Luka will go down as the 7th greatest player to ever play the game.
Wow.
That's my prediction.
We get
I
a
think he's
2-part
that
prediction here.
special.
We are so blessed.
But in terms of this season, I think Luka makes the conference finals against Golden State, and that depends on Draymond's health. I'm not going to look that far into my crystal ball, but at that point, I think it's a Dallas Golden State conference finals. And I think Luka goes all the way, averaging like 35, 11, and 11.
I love
Okay.
that. I love Luka,
Okay.
and I love that because it's true. Like, no one is stop. I mean, this dude, I don't want to say the most, but he's one of the most unguardable players in the entire league. And he's doing all of this without having a reliable jump shot. I mean, he does everything. Like, he's just an offensive genius. Mm-hmm. So I love that. Like, I'm not gonna say I agree, but I love it.
It's good.
It's a hot
Yes,
take, right? We're
love
allowed
it.
to exaggerate a little bit.
Exactly.
Absolutely. No, we love that. And hey, man, I'm just going to say it right now. We would love to have you back on another
I was just
episode.
thinking the same thing.
Another episode of Planet 76 in the future.
I'd love to be back. Obviously, it's a first-time thing. If you get terrible ratings for having a foreigner on, then obviously don't have me again. But
that ain't going to happen. No, we'll have you on for sure. Maybe to preview the playoffs or something here in a few weeks.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Definitely. Absolutely, man. This has been fun.
All right, William. Well, thank you for joining us again. And again, that's Michael. This is Troy. And this is Planet 76, episode 41. Thank you so much for joining us. And
The Dirk episode.
We'll see you next time. The Dirk episode. We'll see you next time.
All right. Catch you later.
You just listened to an episode of the Planet 76 podcast. Hey, we appreciate you joining us for this episode.
whatever platform you're on, why don't you hit that subscribe button for us, and we'll see you next time.